Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me. I am still Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com. It is still in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any of our platforms. Please reach out to me. I am Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for pricing. Today we are discussing a 2023 limited edition of 2,000 pieces in stainless steel from Grand Seiko of Japan. This is the High-Beat GMT SBGJ275, a 25th anniversary salute to the original 9S automatic caliber. So the watch in steel, 44.2 millimeters in diameter, 15.1 millimeters thick. If we're measuring the case lug-to-lug, and it's just the case, 51 millimeters. If we measure the end links of the bracelet, the total rigid distance across the wrist is 52.5 millimeters with a 21 millimeter spacing between the lugs. On my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, this watch is big, but it's not overpowering. I can wear it, and if your wrist is my size, 16 centimeters or larger, you're going to find it wears well. It's neither thick nor thin, and you can see it does nestle down thinner than it is, sinking somewhat into the wrist. So it doesn't wear obtrusively, though you're probably not going to fit it underneath the tightest of dress cuffs. Here's your shot down the barrel to see how much clearance I've got, and then another shot over the top, and always be advised that over the top shot exaggerates the width of a watch. Taking a look at the bracelet, it's steel. There's a conforming end link, matches the slope of the lugs and the curve of the case. Then we've got polished intermediates, a little bit of taper of link size down toward the clasp, moving away from the end link. There's a bit of a rolled bevel on the shoulder of the outer links, giving way to a polished flank. We've got removable links fixed by screws here, and note that on each side there is an intermediate sized link, so if you find yourself in between sizes, you're still going to be able to get a good fit. We have a single fold, thick gauge steel deployant clasp with a logo that has a combination of polish and media blast, and then the clasp is polished and satinated. You have to press both triggers, not one, both, to pop it open, so it's quite secure. And then internally, we have 4 pairs of divots drilled through the clasp, so you can use your strap tool to move the spring bar and fine-tune the anchoring point to change the fit on the wrist, so there's some more adjustability there. Grand Seiko, one of the last brands in its mainstream luxury price point that still expects people might use a strap tool to swap out. Right here, we have strap tools, readily accessing the spring bar at all 4 corners. Strap tool holes make it very easy to pop off the links and go with a OEM or aftermarket strap, and it will change the aesthetic of the watch. Taking a look at the case, there's some sophistication here, a little bit of a negative tumble home profile. Then we've got polished bevels on the edge of the lugs, satinated lug hoods. There's a little bit of a roll of the lug down towards its squared off face underneath. The case polish is all done by a tin plate polishing method that takes about 3 years to master. Grand Seiko calls it Zaratsu polish. It's done on Zalitz machines with a spinning tin plate, meaning that although this is in the luxury class, along with Omega, Rolex, for example, it has an element of hand finishing that you generally don't find until you move several price strata above mainstream luxury. So this is a hand-finished watch externally. We have a bezel that is bidirectional rotating. It is a timing bezel. So for example, if you set your 24-hour second time zone to Greenwich Mean Time, you can use the GMT offset to rotate the bezel and find the time at a third time zone instantaneously. So it's a full-time 2-time watch and a part-time triple-time watch. There's also a sapphire crystal over the bezel, which is wonderfully scratch resistant and means the entire bezel can be made luminescent with no danger of the lume being scratched off. Now you can see all 3 primary hands on the dial are visible here, and then the entire bezel is luminescent and quite spectacular in the dark. Dial furniture on a Grand Seiko is spectacular. In fact, their dials are, in my opinion, co-equal with Rolex, the best in the mainstream luxury class. The difference is Rolex achieves that perfection through automation. Grand Seiko still uses quite a bit of manual craft. Starting outboard, you can see that there's a 24-hour scale against which you can read that 24-hour hand. It makes 1 circuit of the dial per calendar day. Now, the hands, the frame for the date, the logo, and all the indices are finished on tiny diamond-tipped milling tools by artisans who focus on making these miniature fixtures all day long, and that is all they do. It's a very specialized craft. Once they're crafted by hand, they're placed and caulked by hand on the dial. So like I said, a handmade dial. Now the base right here, it is designed to emulate the sea of clouds or blue sky above Mount Iwate, which is outside the Shizuku Ishii studio where these mechanical Grand Seiko watches are made in Morioka. So it's basically the imagery of nature outside of the shop where these are made. Of course, there are two different primary Grand Seiko shops. There is Shinshu and Shizuku Ishii. Shinshu is primarily spring drive and quartz. Shizuku Ishii is mechanical, and so that is where this is made. Now, it's a high beat GMT, so not only does it have two different time zones, but it has a high beat rate of 10 beats per second or 5 hertz, 36,000 vibrations per hour like a Zenith El Primero. That's why the seconds hand sweeps very smoothly. It also endows the watch with potentially higher accuracy if properly adjusted, and these are adjusted from the factory to run -3 +5 seconds per day per 24 hours, which is even a little bit better than a COSC certified Swiss chronometer. We also have some other setting functions here. You can see the crown is somewhat off-centered so that this watch is ambidextrous. Now we are in hacking or stop seconds mode, so we can set the watch to a reference time to the second. We also have a mode that disables the setting of the other 3 hands while I set the local hour hand, and note I can drive the date forward and backwards as I do so, depending on which direction I'm crossing the international date line. Now, screw down crown, 200 meter water resistance, flip it over, we have a titanium rotor that has been oxidized by anodization, and this has been a series of anodized titanium rotors on limited editions since the mid-2010s. This one has the same beautiful blue as the dial, with the same sort of scatter pattern that suggests clouds in a blue sky. We have the Grand Seiko Lion, a vintage logo right there. You can see the movement, 9S86, that's what's in here. Automatic winding, 5 hertz beat rate, 6 position adjusted, -3 +5 seconds per day, 55-hour power reserve, adjusted in 6 positions. Remember, 5 is the chronometer standard. This is 6, one more. And that does have the benefit of there being no position in which the watch hasn't been tested or regulated. Because if you only get one of those 5-position watches and you stick it in that one unregulated position overnight on your dresser, you're going to have timing issues. Here, not. 37 jewels, heavily jeweled, beautifully made. Grand Seiko, a fully integrated manufacturer, making everything, not just cases, dials, and movements, but also small things like lubricants and shock protection. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details of this exquisitely handcrafted Japanese GMT.